Craig, it's great to see you. Thanks for your time, and we can't wait for this weekend. Welsh Cup, a little secret. We've been desperate to come up to Cwpan Bay for ages, waiting for the chance and to get the draw. It's happened. Home to Cardiff Met. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, we really are. It's a high-profile game for us against a Tier 1 team, a really good Tier 1 team, with a great group of players, a great manager, and then you've got the added bonus and slight distraction of it being the first televised game in Cwpan Bay's history on domestic TV. So there's a lot to consider and take in, but it's something we're really looking forward to. And we just can't wait for Saturday to come now. How's
the season going as well? Because it's been such a strange time for everybody, all walks of life. But football's been affected in the pandemic as well. But you got football's back, the fans are back. How are things with Cwpan Bay?
You know what? I think that's the most important thing, that football has been the winner. We've had so long out with Tier 2 not playing at all during, the lockdown when other leagues were playing. To be back, completed the longest pre-season that we have done, to be back playing in a very competitive league against some really good teams. It's been a joy, if I'm being brutally honest. But in terms of the season so far, we are where we are on the table. I think ideally we would have liked to be higher in the league. But again, the league is very competitive. There's reasons why perhaps we've had a number of injuries. Perhaps we've been a little bit naive in certain games as well. I include myself in that as well. Haven't capitalised on big moments in games. Yeah, maybe we should have 3 or 4 more wins than we've got currently. But I think just to be back, to be playing and working for Cwpan Bay in front of our fantastic support base, it's just great. It's just brilliant.
So what kind of form, what kind of state are you in going into this one against Cardiff Met, injury-wise and everything? You mentioned a few injuries there. Is that an issue this weekend?
We've got a couple, coming from the Llandudno game, the derby last week. But look, whatever team we field on Saturday, we'll be competing, we'll be giving, their all, to make our fans proud, to perform in front of the cameras and to do everything we can, within the laws of the game to go and win it. It's a great tie to be involved in. We're not just there to make up the numbers. And we hope to, cause some problems for our visitors on Saturday.
Yeah, you mentioned the Llandudno game. You got strong connections with that club as well. Played for them, been there with the coaching setup. You got a better quiff than Sean Eardley, I've got to tell you.
Well, Mr. Eardley, I think, took a leaf out of my book. I think we're trying to compete on the quiff from the pair of us now. Sean's a good friend. Obviously, he's a former teammate. He's a former colleague on the coaching staff at Llandudno. We experienced a lot together when Alan Morgan was the manager there. We were promoted, I think, within 3.5 years into the Cymru Premier League. And in our first season, we had the success of qualifying for Europe and the game against IFK Gothenburg as well. So we know what success is, in Welsh domestic football to a certain degree. And, my role as manager of Cwpan Bay is to do everything I can to bring that success to this football club too. Even
when he's celebrating a win, can you cope with that with him?
No, but Sean, I think we're different. Sean's had success this season with Llandudno. He did a good job at Carnarvon as well, and he's got his personality. I've got mine. They are different, but at the end of the day, we're both very passionate about the teams that we work for, and we care a great deal about our clubs. We want to be successful.
You mentioned it earlier with that derby as well, but the strength of a Tier 2, as we like to call it in the Cymru North, there's some strong teams up there. Well, you know the area better than I do. Has it always been a hotbed of football?
I think it has. I have experiences of playing in the Cymru Premier League, the Welsh Premier League as it was, and for Llandudno in Tier 2 and Llangefni as it happens as well. And, there's never been a great deal between teams, with the exception of Prestatyn in our first season back in Welsh domestic football. They did run away with the league, but you look at the players now that were part of that squad, the amount of players that are now plying their trade in the Cymru Premier League, they may have been the exception to the rule. This season, Airbus and Guilsfield are very strong. Llandudno are up there, Buckley are up there. And the teams below it, there's not a great deal. So, yeah, it's a fiercely competitive league. I'd imagine it's the same in the Cymru South as well. And it's just a fantastic level of football to be involved in. It's been reflected in the attendances that we're seeing. Cwpan Bay's attendances been really good this year. They were when we came back to Welsh domestic football, but other clubs as well have seen an increase in attendances as well. So I think there's a real desire and appetite in the North for us Gogs, to enjoy our football, and people really do.
What also struck me was how many clubs have applied for that licence to get into the Cymru Prem. Lots of years we've had strong teams on the pitch, but maybe things off the pitch weren't there to let them go for promotion, but it seems to be changing. Is that true?
I think the attitude towards being part of the big league and the big show has changed. Clubs are more proactive in looking at how they can improve their facilities. There's more coaches now, I think, with A and B licences in Tier 2 than there ever has been before. And I think, the coach education with the FAW has played a massive part in that as well. Welsh football feels like it's moving really in the right direction. It really, really does. The strength of the Cymru Premier, that seems to be a really good brand. But Tier 2 North and Tier 2 South, it's rebranded. The product is really good. And I think, there's a difference in terms of levels with the Cymru Premier League and the Tier 2 structure as well. But you even look at Tier 3 and what's happening down there, the rebranding of that as well. It feels like Welsh football's really moving in a really good direction at the moment. And again, for us to be back and part of the system, part of the pyramid now, it's something we're really proud of and really proud of, contributing towards that.
Yeah, Colwyn Bae in Welsh football. I never thought it would happen. 30 years ago, it was all kicking off, Craig, when the idea of creating a League of Wales was first mooted. It was now this month, 30 years ago, Alan Evans said it was going to happen. And then, of course, Colwyn Bae were part of that. Well, the irate eight, as they've been labelled. I've heard better terms, but there we are. How did it happen? How did Colwyn Bae come back? Because it's great to have you back, but it seemed to happen quite quickly in the end.
It did. I took charge of Colwyn Bae in September 2018. And to go from September to the January, where the club had indicated to the supporters, to shareholders, that they were exploring the opportunity or the prospect of returning to Welsh football. They had their reasons for it. From a financial point of view, it was becoming unrealistic and unsustainable to remain within the English system. The nature of the travel, the cost, the lack of interest commercially with local sponsors and things like that as well, I believe. And then we got to January, it was put to, a meeting and a vote, a decision was finalised. And then we fast forward to, I think it was the end of February 2019, I believe it was. And next thing you know, we've been accepted, we're going into Tier 2, the restructured Tier 2 as it was the Cymru North. And it's been an absolute roller coaster. But, to see both sides of the fence in terms of, to be the last manager of Colwyn Bae within the English system and the first manager on our return back to Welsh football. I've experienced a great deal. I've seen a lot. And again, I think it's a move that's proved to be really, really positive.
It's so interesting. We could do a 2-hour podcast just on the fact that Colwyn Bae have come back into the Welsh system. I guess there were so many fears, and maybe the fans wouldn't fancy it and all that because you're a club, you've got great support. But it seems from the outside that everybody's enjoying it.
They are. There's no mistake in that. A tendency to speak for themselves. I think with any change, Dylan, there's always resistance to change. There's always uncertainty, and there's always a fear of it. I think people are right to have those fears because the norm for Colwyn Bae was so much time, effort, and love invested in, being part of the English pyramid. Times change, and I think you look at now the reaction to, firstly, people accepting Colwyn Bae back into the tier, back into Welsh football, how the fans have reacted to that. The support that we've had, has been incredible. I'm very fortunate to be manager of Colwyn Bae Football Club. That doesn't escape me at all. It's a massive club with a massive fan base, but they turn up week in, week out to support their team and support their players. And, to now be a high-profile team in Welsh domestic football is something I think everyone connected to the club, both players, staff, board members, supporters, commercial partners, should be, really, really proud of.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned commercial side of things as well with sponsors and stuff, because that's obviously a factor, but obviously it doesn't sound like that's been an issue either.
Well, I think, my understanding of that is it's not my neck of the woods in terms of responsibility, but my understanding is that, commercially the club is performing well. The support from the major shareholders, the investors, the board, sponsors locally as well. It's so positive. It's been great. You add to that the work of the supporters club that's been set up in the last 18 months, 2 years, how proactive they are, the community engagement programs that are going on, the strength of the academy, how that's evolving and changing for the better as well. The move has proved to be, I believe, really, really positive.
What's interesting, Craig, of course, in an ideal world, you'd have all the best clubs in Wales playing in Wales, and I include Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham, Newport in that as well. Clubs like Merthyr have been like Colwyn Bay, not keen at all. I don't expect you to give anybody any advice or tell them what to do, but again, from what you're saying, do you think maybe more clubs should just look at it as an option?
Well, I can't really speak to them for, other clubs. Their decision, the decisions they make is if that's their prerogative. Going on our experience of returning, home to Welsh football, it's been such a positive experience. The environment is suited, I think, for growth of a football club. We're seeing that now. And I think, Merthyr is a big club and they've got a big fan base anyway. They'll make the decisions themselves. I'm sure they're responsible and reasonable enough to do that. But speaking from our point of view, we are loving it, we're enjoying it, and we feel like it's the right environment to grow this football club and bring value to not just ourselves, but to Welsh football as well.
Oh, it's great to hear you being so positive, and I think everybody's been so happy to see you back, to be honest, because everybody wants to see the domestic league grow. What can we expect on Saturday then up at Colwyn Bay? Because we can't wait to be there. Is it going to be bouncing?
I would imagine so. I understand that there's a lot of interest in the game. Obviously with it being the early kick-off as well, I think we might see a different type of fans there who wouldn't normally come as well. I think more so it's a game that we just want to go and perform in. We know we're going to be up against it. A good tier one side, as we've discussed before. From our point of view, we're not just going to be there to make up the numbers. It's a big occasion, yes, but it's a game of football that we want to try and win as well. And if we can perform to the levels that I know we're capable of, that I've seen, then I think Cardiff, they'll be in for a game, and the viewers on S4C and Sgwrs, which should be in for an entertaining match for sure.
Brilliant. That's one way to sell the show. Thanks very much for your time. It's just great to, as I've said a few times, great to have Colwyn Bay back in the system. We can't wait to do a live game, and looking forward to it. I'll have to up my quiff game because Sean Eardley always gives me stick. You've taken it to a new level. We'll see you on Saturday, Craig.
Diolch ti, Dylan. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr.